Long time no speak. This is Kent with Panama Equity Real Estate, hopping on for our first live of the year. And today I want to talk about what a recession could possibly do to the Panama real estate market. I've been doing this for 15 years, started in '07, and anybody that tells you they can predict the future is full of beans. But what I would like to do today is to give you guys a sense of what to watch for. Basically, what are the metrics and sort of the tendencies that say, well, okay, usually if this happens, then this happens. So, starting off, let's talk about the US, specifically the US housing market. I think everybody would agree right now, US housing market for the most part feels pretty topped out. Hard to say. Again, that said, um, if you see that this trend continues in terms of the last 3 to 6 months, now we're in June, now we're in July, and prices have continued to come down. What could that do for the Panama real estate market? Well, one of two things. Hard to call on that one, whether it's okay, people were able to sell, now they have equity, they're not going to reinvest in their home country, so they're looking elsewhere. If they want to hold real estate, they're going to look at maybe first dollar-based assets, maybe not. Obviously, Panama is on the dollar, so that plays into and kind of pivoting from the US housing market, the whole idea of the strength of the dollar, because the dollar has been on a tear. If you're not watching it, then if it doesn't matter to you, then you don't watch it. But I can tell you that for the last 4 or 5 years, the US dollar has been higher than it's ever been. And usually, as I understand, the US government has something to do with that. They can create policy that either strengthens the dollar or weakens the dollar. In the last administration, the policy was, or the intention was to strengthen the US dollar. In this administration, it's to lower. If you had to choose a side, it depending on if you're buying or selling real estate in Panama. If you're holding real estate, obviously a strong dollar is interesting, because if you're trading it back into your current assets, hey, you get more US dollars when you sell, and then you can get your own currency back at a higher rate. However, it gets really interesting when we get a weak dollar. And for example, the Canadian dollar was at par with the US dollar about 2 years ago. No, it was pre-pandemic. So probably 3 years ago. And man, did we see the Canadians. They're still coming down. Um, so watch the strength of the dollar versus other major currencies. As the dollar comes down, demand in Panama real estate generally goes up. Again, nobody can predict the future. I'm just telling you what I've seen in the last 15 years, because obviously it gets cheaper for people from Canada or Europe or anybody else that's not on the dollar to buy real estate in Panama if their money goes further, right? So I haven't watched the dollar in the last couple of months, honestly, but it's been strong, and I'm hoping that it's going to get lower. What happens if it stays strong? Well, the good news is, for a country like Panama, where we are importing a lot of our products, strong dollar helps us curb against inflation a little bit, because, hey, we don't have to use as many dollars to bring stuff in, right? Um, Hey, what's up, France? Thank you. And guys, whenever, I would love to hear where everybody's from. We haven't done one of these lives yet this year, but sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to us, young trader. Let me put your comment on here. Contact us on WhatsApp. I will send you a direct message. I'd rather not put my WhatsApp phone number on YouTube, because you never know. But yes, you can also visit our website, panamaequity.com, fill out a form, and either myself or someone from my team will engage with you directly. Would love to hear where everybody's from. So right now, guys, I am trying to give some insight and some metrics on what to watch to figure out what's going to happen with the real estate prices in Panama, kind of based on my time down here. Tourism is always a huge indicator. And right now, tourism is just okay. And we should be a lot busier. Not we as a company, we're busy, thank God, but hotels. So I checked out checked in with a few hotel owners, and it sounds like folks are running anywhere from say 60 to 80% occupancy, which, hey, year round is great. But usually hotel owners make their the majority of their money. They're counting on a good busy season, right? So that's January to about April. Best time to come in, by the way. I mean, weather is awesome. Hardly rains here for like a few months at a time. It's crazy. You get a rainstorm, and you're like, wow. And then come, May or June, it'll rain more. But tourism. So right now on a 1 to 10, tourism should be at about a 9 this time of year. It's about a 7 or an 8 right now. So watch tourism, pay attention to that, because that's sort of a lagging indicator. People come to Panama and then maybe some of them like it, and then they come back and maybe they buy, or they come back a third time and they buy. So generally, if you have a big tourism season, then about a year later, you tend to see that residuals coming in the form of buying and renting. So what else? What other trends are going on? Well, I see a few people checking in. Atlanta, DC. All right. Appreciate y'all. Pennsylvania, USA. So last time I checked in the US, things are still pretty contentious in terms of politics. I guess we just got a speaker elected or nominated, or however that works. But, we're still seeing a huge trend of people moving down to Panama because they're kind of fed up with it. Maybe they still work they've still worked for a US based company, but they live in Panama. That's happening. So just as long as the whole remote work trend stays strong, Panama benefits from that. We have good internet. We have good connectivity in terms of getting back and forth. I don't want to make this into a commercial and say Panama, more so make it into sort of a way for you guys to see what we watch. Interest rates right now. So obviously interest rates in the States have been pretty high. We had a little dip up in the States, at least back a few months ago, but they've been trending steadily upwards. Panama interest rates kind of stay high. On the one hand, that's annoying for people looking for mortgages, especially investors. We generally don't see much cash on cash return once you bring in, a mortgage at, let's say loan to value of like 40, 60. So you got to put down 40 to get 60% from the bank at 6%. So what does that mean? That means it's a conservative market here, guys. And it has been for a long time. And I don't expect interest rates to ratchet up that much in Panama, because we haven't really caught up with the US for a while. We were way ahead. Now we're just a little bit ahead of the US. But typically for a foreign investor looking to just purchase an investment property, now if it's a residence, that's different. But just an investment property, you're still looking at like 6.5%, which is not cheap. So what does that mean for the market? Well, I mean, historically, that means that you're going to have less speculation, less people coming in and getting over leveraged, and therefore less repossessions. We're watching repossessions, and we're actually going to start getting into that market a little bit, just because we're seeing a little bit more, but that's pressure from local sellers, local borrowers, I should say, folks that are having problems paying back their mortgage. Obviously, this is no new story for anybody else around the world, but Panama has seen it as a result of the pandemic, not necessarily from over leveraging, but just for reasons that you normally see for someone not being able to make their mortgage, lost their job, not making as much, costs higher. Jurgen, thank you. Let's see what your question is. You're retired. Go, Jurgen. From New York City, 5K a month. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, it depends on your lifestyle, depends on how big of a property you're going to need. Generally, I would say if you take the property component out of that 5K a month, you'll be fine. Although these days groceries are kind of expensive. You're coming from New York City, so it's going to be cheaper. Everything is. And there are certain things that are significantly less expensive in Panama, namely medical. We get great coverage on, I think I'm paying like $400 a month now, and that's for like a family of 4. So yeah, and like really good hospitals. Again, I don't want to promote Panama so much in this, although that's kind of what I do for a living. But answering your question, Jurgen, yes. Half your pension. Okay, now we're talking maybe 2,500. Yeah, I mean, you definitely can. Restaurants are similar to kind of like a middle market like Atlanta, not as expensive as DC, not as expensive as New York. Groceries, some things are a lot cheaper, like fresh fish, fresh produce, rice, everything that's sort of what they call the canasta básica, which is what is that? That is the basic basket of goods. So if you buy locally, yes. It depends on what your holding costs are, Jurgen. Like if you buy a car and you got to pay a mortgage on, or pay your loan on that. If you are renting versus buying, so 2,500, taking out the cost of living, the living allowance, if you will. In other words, if you don't have a mortgage or rent, if 2,500 is just to live in Panama, you'll do fine. So, and it depends on where you want to live too and how you want to live, because shoot, you could blow through 2,500 on a weekend, couldn't you? It just depends, right? But yeah, I think the average wage in Panama is about, I want to say probably household income combined is probably somewhere around $2,500 a month. And that's for, house of four, mom and dad working at decent jobs, 1,250, 1,300 a month. They might be working at a bank as a teller, or maybe, sort of mid management retail type thing. So hopefully that answers your question. And love questions, by the way. Thank you guys. Let's see here. So I will get back on track as far as what we watch. So interest rates we talked about. Inflation is real. You kind of can't help it. Although the good news is with inflation right now, it looked like the consumer price index up in the States is coming down. They say when the U.S. sneezes, Panama catches a cold. It's kind of an old expression and goes back to when we really depended on the U.S. a lot, when the U.S. military had a big presence here in Panama in the form of the Panama Canal Zone. The U.S. government, really, it wasn't all military. Less so now, but the U.S. is still a big trade partner with Panama. The U.S. is still a big source of visitors coming in from Panama. Tourism, if I had to guess, probably, I don't know, it wouldn't be a good guess. 60% of the tourists coming to Panama are from the U.S., but I do not have anything to base that on. So never mind that one. So we're watching hotel occupancy. We're watching the strength of the dollar. We are watching interest rates. We're watching inflation. And of course, the U.S. housing market. The cool thing about Panama, and the interesting thing, is that usually Panama real estate is affected more so what's going on outside of the world than what's going on specifically in Panama. Job creation is fine. Unemployment is manageable. Inflation is the same as it is, on all dollar-based economy, which is kind of annoying, but not unmanageable. It's not like the Venezuelan peso or, other currencies that tend to get hit by inflation a lot. We're on the dollar, so it's kind of stable, right? Those are the 4 or 5 factors that we're watching and that you can watch too. So, thank you for tuning in. If you have any other questions, I can certainly go down a rabbit hole because I'm kind of done with my piece. And what we always like to do, what I plan on doing this year, as I've done in years past, is getting some of my team on, getting some of, other providers on, folks that do insurance, medical, lawyers, all of that good stuff. But man, it's a great time to come visit Panama. Blue skies, great weather. And I tell you what, we are busy. We are very busy as a company. And I don't think it's just us. I think other real estate companies are busy right now. Rents have started inching up. Prices have started to come up after the pandemic. We didn't have a huge jump like in the US. I mean, golly, places like Texas, New York, California, even some of those markets might still be seeing a little bit of a bump up. But man, over the last sort of getting out of the pandemic and coming into post-pandemic world, those real estate markets were on fire. Ours came down during the pandemic and slowly inched up because people couldn't get back to Panama. Businesses didn't want to move to Panama just because, businesses didn't want to move anywhere. And I would say that we're always late bloomers. back in 1989, when markets like Costa Rica, in the early 90s, Costa Rica, the Caribbean, all of those markets were just getting discovered. We had tanks on the ground, US tanks, bullets flying. Imagine that. So we're still catching up. Panama is still very much under the radar. But I tell you, if you're watching this, then you already kind of know. Sellers, I would say, you might want to wait a little bit because prices are coming up. We're seeing it. Rents are driving that. Corporate relocation is driving that. We've seen several multinationals come in. We've got major projects going on right now that are going to be hitting phases that will bring in new rounds of workers, all of whom generally rent and or sometimes they buy. Hey, Jurgen, you got another question, buddy. Thank you. So I can just stop my monologue here. What you got? Rule of thumb on down payment. Yeah. I mean, 20%. No, it's usually more for a foreigner, like 30 to 40%. Now, sometimes you can get developer financing. But yeah, I mean, it's a little tricky as a foreigner to get. What a lot of our clients have done is, if you can pull equity out of the States or any other, where you might have equity in the form of getting a second mortgage or a mortgage on your primary residence and your home and then buying cash, it's usually better because the rates are better outside. Talking about mortgages real quick, we've got a bank now that is like actively looking for US clients, and we've got a lot of US clients looking for mortgages. So, if you're based in US, they consider, they look at you as an American, for better, for worse. I'm American, so it's okay. There are a bit more hurdles that we have to jump through in terms of FACTA and all of that, but that's just par for the course, right? We are from the United States. Okay, so y'all, unless you got anything else, any other questions you might have, thank you for watching. Like and share for sure. I think the way YouTube works is, if you like it, then you will get some sort of notification that we are going live again, and live we will go for sure. Expect that from us this year. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year. I'm from Hawaii. We say Haole Makahiki Ho, which is Happy New Year. Feliz Año Nuevo. Nice to see folks here commenting. Come on down. The weather's great. Take care.